billahi minashaitanirrajim. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome everyone to Always Receiving Noor weekly Quran study. We are continuing to journey in Surah Luqman, and today is our 7th session. And as usual, Sister Yamina will be leading us in tonight's session, and we're welcome to participate with thoughtful questions and comments, and we'll also have a bit time at the end as well for Q&A. So without further delay, I'll turn to Sister Yamina. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم افتح لنا أبواب حكمتك وانشر علينا رحمتك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام. So we stopped at ayah 13. Just for a reminder, I'll reread inshallah 12 and 13, which was about granting hikmah to Luqman alayhi salam. I'm saying alayhi salam, or maybe it's not important. In the tafsirs, in the commentaries, there are lots of discussions whether Luqman was a prophet or just a wise man, a wise abd. But alayhi salam is like when we see each other, we say alaykum salam. That's how we greet each other. So we're saying alayhi salam because sometimes some people say no, say radiyallahu an and things like that. But to me, it's like we give salam to everyone, to each other, to even our dead in the cemeteries. So there is nothing wrong with that, I think. And here the point is not whether he is a prophet or not. Here we're told that he is given hikmah, and we will see how he is teaching this hikmah to his son. And as he's teaching, as we are told how he's teaching hikmah to his son, of course we are being taught hikmah, and that's what matter most, inshallah. So to be grateful for that, and to be grateful for these people who had that integrity and that sincerity, that to bear the divine message, so they made it accessible to us, alhamdulillah, because if they were not there, there wouldn't be these examples where we could understand and follow in their footsteps, inshallah. So in ayah 12, we're told, and indeed we granted wisdom unto Luqman, and so what is this wisdom? Be grateful to God, for he who is grateful is only grateful for his own good, and he who chooses to be ungrateful, truly God is self-sufficient, ever to be praised. And then Luqman spoke thus unto his son, admonishing him, O my dear son, do not ascribe partners with God. Ya bunayya la tushrik billahi, inna shirka la dhulmun azim. For behold, shirk is indeed an awesome injustice. And now, the next ayah is, ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. So this is God speaking now. We have enjoined upon human being goodness towards his parents. His mother bore him by bearing strain upon strain, and his utter dependence on her lasted 2 years. Hence, therefore, be grateful towards me and towards your parents. And remember that with me is that all journeys end. Ilay al-masir. Everything ends with me. Everything is with me. Let's say. So it is interesting that Luqman alayhi salam is not telling his son, respect me, I am your father, you need to respect your parents. No, he's telling him, dear son, do not commit shirk. He is not also starting by telling him, look, since wisdom is being grateful to God, then be grateful to God only. And we talked about that last week, because we first need to be aware of the possibility of shirk. So when there is no shirk, then automatically we will be grateful to God alone. But it's not just by intending to be grateful to God only and not knowing who God is, not knowing how to be grateful to God only. If we're not aware that we are falling into shirk constantly, that intention, however good it is not enough. It is not sufficient. That's why we need the guidance of the Quran. We need divine guidance. And so, of course, this guidance is for those who have a good intention. They want to surrender. We want to be grateful to God alone. How do we do that? Start by not committing shirk. This is what he tells his son. So, dear son, do not commit shirk. And if you don't commit shirk, then as a result, inshallah, you will be worshipping God only. Because it is when we commit shirk that we fall into injustice. We towards ourselves and therefore towards the people around us, especially who is the victim of our injustice, our shirk, our unawareness, ourselves, and those the closest to us, starting with our parents, our children, and things like that. However, if the son is truly loves God, worships God and loves him, and doesn't commit shirk, what's going to happen? He will appreciate his father. He will respect and love his father in the name of God. So right after Luqman alayhi salam tells his son to keep away from shirk, he's going to keep away from shirk so that he can be grateful to God only. Then in the next ayah, which is ayah 14, we're told, and now God is speaking, we have enjoined upon human being goodness towards his parents.
Sister Yamina, before we move on to that verse, could I say something?
Sure.
One thing that occurred to me about the verse 13, when it says that ascribing partners is indeed an awesome injustice, and we talked a little bit about this last time as well. Somebody had recently has said to me, why is shirk such a big deal? And it's interesting that it's the biggest sin in Islam, while something like murder, I would expect something like murder to be number one. So in the act of shirk, it looks like you may be nice, not killing anybody, not hurting anybody physically, but you're just not believing in God. We did talk about that, how that not rejecting God is actually an insult to all creatures of God. And in addition, I think shirk is the root of all evil, because when we hurt other people, it's underneath there is shirk. Let's say there are lots of struggle going around about a particular piece of land, and people are, and you look at the person, you're like, why are you so oppressing just for a piece of land? But that person may have idealized that piece of land. My well-being belongs to this land. My, existence belongs to this land. Only through this land I can be happy. We can replace land with wealth, with status. We fight people, we hurt people, and then if you look underneath, there is an implicit shirk there. Why? Because we all have fatra, we all have basic human nature to be nice, in the very general sense of the word. Not be hurtful and so on. Actually, today I even saw an article that said, according to studies, human beings get very happy when they share, when they give, and this is demonstrated scientifically. So the article was saying, well, if we can give to people who are in need, plus we get to be very happy because of it, well, that's a good deal. Like, it's just a very basic materialist, basic, almost like a selfish way. Like, this is a really good deal. Like, they even compare like how the amount of your salary increase, like you can have a big salary jump, and it really actually doesn't make much difference in your happiness, very little. But if you give, it makes a lot of difference. I'm saying all of this to remind us that it's actually very kind of natural to be kind, to be generous, and so on. But then we find ourselves in situations where we're selfish, we're greedy, to the point of killing, to the point of really letting somebody else starve. And why is that? Underneath is shirk. Like, why, if I had a tendency to share, naturally given to me, but I withhold, what is underneath? It's underneath, I have a shirk attitude. I think that piece of wealth that I'm refusing to share is going to give me something independent of God, apart from God. And I'm turning that into an idol. That's just a thought I wanted to share. So indeed, as you said, shirk is in itself a big injustice, and it's also the mother of injustice, if you will. Like, it's where all the other forms of injustice come out.
That's true. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, Isra. So in the next ayah, God is speaking, and he says, ووصينا الإنسان بوالديه حملته أمه وهنا على وهن وفصاله في عامين أن اشكر لي ولوالديك إلي المصير. And so God says, we have enjoined upon human being goodness towards his parents, his mother, and there is a reason given for this. His mother bore him by bearing strain upon strain, and his utter dependence on her lasted 2 years. Therefore, we are told, be grateful towards me, اشكر لي ولوالديك. And I will say, and therefore, usually, and therefore towards your parents. So being grateful to God is related to being grateful towards our parents. And remember that with me is all journeys ends. And so what's the connection with the previous ayah? Because the previous ayah was about not committing shirk, right? Let me remember from the beginning. Yeah. Yes. So it was like, do not commit shirk because it's an injustice. And now we're told, be good towards your parents. So this ayah is actually telling us how to be grateful to God.
It's interesting because I would expect, if I'm going to be focused on God in the sense of not having any shirk, then all my gratitude should go to God And right after that, being told that be grateful to God and your parents almost sounds like shirk, you know, why?
Yeah,
God
we'll come
and
to
your
that,
parents.
inshallah. Actually, even like, yeah, suddenly be good towards your parents, isn't it? Like, that's why I did look in tafsir. The first time I read not only this ayah, but most of these ayahs, the relationship with each ayah with the next one, to me, I always ask that question. That's how I learned usul al-tafsir from Imam Badiu'z-Zaman Sa'id Nursi, that because these are ayat, it's like a language. Each ayah is related to the other one. Their order itself is, there is wisdom in the order. Otherwise, you can find, like in many commentaries, it's like a necklace. You have all these beautiful pearls next to each other. But I think the Quran is more than that. That's beautiful, alhamdulillah. Even the order is, there is hikmah in the order. There is wisdom in the order as well. So here, subhanallah, I was like, how is this connected with the previous now? Now, we were told don't commit shirk. And as Isra just mentioned, which we would understand, okay, you worship and love God alone, be grateful to God only. And then he says, be good to your parents and be grateful towards me and towards your parents. So just a second. Actually, when you stop and reflect, this ayah is telling us how to be grateful to God. What does it mean to be grateful to God? Just saying Alhamdulillah? Like just saying the word, just like I feel grateful towards God? How do I live with gratitude towards God? So it's giving me an example. Start with the closest. And then we will, once we establish one relationship, then we can, inshallah, apply it to other relationships. So it says, you want to be grateful to God? Then be good to your parents, be grateful to them. Which means if you're grateful to God, then you appreciate His blessings. Be grateful to people and especially to your parents. Remember how your mother, since the mother example is given here, bore you and took care of you when you were so weak, so needy, so unaware. And so this is an invitation to remember how God takes care of us, of children, through their parents, by giving them the love, the compassion, the patience to look after their children. And so parents, and especially mothers, are themselves ayat. Their compassion, their mercy, their patience are ayat. They are signs. They are like mirrors. Our mothers are like mirrors reflecting God's mercy. A lot, a little, but still they all, at least they gave birth to you. So that is also a reflection of God's mercy. Be grateful for that. That's how God gives us existence, gives us life, take care of us. Just like food is a blessing, this is an even greater blessing because they choose to. Some parents may not choose to take care of their children. So when we perceive our parents, our mothers this way, when we perceive them as these living mirrors reflecting God's compassion and mercy and rububiyyah, because they took care of us, they were our first tarbiyah was through them, then we will appreciate their caring. We'll appreciate what they did, maybe still doing for us in God's name. And we will cherish and respect them accordingly, inshallah. So like Isra just mentioned, at first sight, that's how it seems, like worshiping and loving God only, being grateful to God only. It seems like, then how can I love anyone or anything else without committing shirk? But actually, that kind of understanding betrays a taking for granted, taking belief in God for granted. It's not a belief in God that is based on shahada, on confirmation. There has been no confirmation, no tasdeeq. Because how do we come to know God? How do we get to love Him and be grateful to Him and worship Him? Because we witness His beautiful names in His ayat in creation, in His blessings, in parents-children relationships, especially how as soon as the child is born, the parents are so caring. They make all their efforts to take care of these children. Subhanallah. Like, it is not rational. There is something beyond it, that relationship, that kind of those feelings that come to this being that just came into the world. They don't know this small child. This taskhir, this being put at the service of this new human being, this young child, totally weak, totally needy, is a sign, an ayah to taskhir Rabbani, to this rububiyyah taking place in the relationship between parents and children, for instance, and in all kinds of activities in creation. So like everything is ayat, that relationship is also an ayah, and it's a very powerful ayah. So when we get to know God through His signs in creation, when we get to know Him through our parents' love towards us, when we see His love and compassion in our mother's mercy and compassion, then it makes sense that we will come back and appreciate those signs, appreciate those living mirrors, appreciate our parents even more and love them even more in His name, subhanah. And this is hikmah. Since we're being created with the love for beautiful things, love for parents, children, and since that love is itself an ayah to the love that God has towards His creation, and since we get to know God and love Him through those signs, through that love for children, for parents, for beautiful things, that love has already been put into our hearts, into our fitrah. We didn't buy it. We don't know where it came from. It's just there. And it is a sign and evidence to our Maker, who created us with this love. So worshiping God alone does not mean giving up everything else. Because if I give everything else, it means, how did you get to God anyway? If you truly worship God, if you truly know God and love Him, it means you got to know Him through His creation. So you cannot dispose of His creation. His creation becomes meaningful, becomes more valuable, becomes something to be appreciated, something to be loved in His name. So hikmah, this hikmah gives us the possibility to keep the balance. With this hikmah, it's possible to keep the balance between loving our parents without shirk, because we could be loving them because I could say my parents are very good, they are very helpful, very supportive, and so I love them for what they are doing to me as though they were the source, this is shirk. And that means if my parents happen to be not those supportive, good, loving parents, I'm going to totally ignore them, neglect them, because the relationship is not based on in the name of God, but on mutual benefits. But when we love our parents in the name of God, there is no shirk there. And so we balance that with loving God without, the result is loving God without neglecting our parents, because it's through loving our parents that we get to love God. And so both sides of these equations are solved clearly when we learn to love our parents in the name of God, subhanAllah. This is very important. That's why Bismillah is the key to all khair, as the hadith says. Because it's not, we understand Bismillah means at the beginning of everything, say Bismillah. Yes, very good, but why are we asked to start Bismillah? Because Bismillah is supposed to remind us something. What is it reminding us? Exactly. Do whatever you are doing in the name of God. Not in your name, not in their name. And then the next ayah says, yet should they endeavor to make you commit shirk with me, that about which you have no knowledge, meaning so you cannot accept because it's contrary to what you believe, then do not obey. But even then, keep them company in this world's life with kindness, and follow the path of those who turn towards me. In the end, unto me you all will return, and thereupon I shall make you understand, and that you were all that you were doing in life. SubhanAllah, there is this again, this emphasis on the end is unto me. In the beginning, it's understood like be grateful to me and to your parents, but the end, ilay al-masir, like the end is unto God. So the end is not our parents. So my gratitude to my parents makes me more grateful to God, and vice versa. The more I'm grateful to God, the more I'm also grateful, more aware of the value of the blessings sent through my parents, and I become even more grateful to them. So the end is always going to God. If it doesn't take me at the end to God, something is wrong. I'm committing shirk. Somehow, somewhere, something is not right. And again here, in this ayah, 15 is it? Yeah, I think it's ayah 15. وَإِنْ جَاهَدَكَ عَلَىٰ أَن تُشْرِكَ بِي مَا لَيْسَ لَكَ بِهِ عِلْمٌ فَلَا تُطِعْهُمَا وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا وَاتَّبِعْ سَبِيلَ مَنْ أَنَابَ إِلَيَّ ثُمَّ إِلَيَّ مَرْجِعُكُمْ فَأُنَبِّئُكُم بِمَا كُنتُمْ تَعْمَلُونَ.
Yanina, before you go on, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. So, are you talking about love? How could you talk about love in the name of this or in the name of that? I don't think it's love as much as it is good behavior, kindness, well-treatment, things like that. Yeah, how is love controlled in that way? I mean, there's something, again, antithetical, and something conflicting between putting all these conditions for love. Then we're talking about something completely different.
Maybe let's say love in the sense of compassion, rahma, more than mahabba as well, but it depends what we understand by love, but love is used pretty much for everything. Here it's more rahma. I didn't quite understand the question though, or the remark.
You were saying earlier in the earlier ayah that you're saying there should be no conflict between lack of shirk, tawheed, utter tawheed, and loving anybody else, including your parents. But you love your parents in the name of God, not in your name, not in their name. The minute we say this, we are not talking about love. We could not be talking about love. We're talking about something different. We're talking about good treatment.
Okay, it could be. Let's stay there. Whether that's love or compassion or good treatment and kindness, as it says in the ayah, kindness. That could be. But why do you think that we cannot say that about love?
I think
the reason why I'm bringing this up because if we use a different word, and I do believe completely that we are describing different sentiments here, then it brings us back to Isra's point and to your point, to your earlier point of it may not be easily resolved. Yes, if you are careful about shirk and not committing shirk, actually loving and love and attachment and so forth, and loving in its broader sense might present a complex conflict. You have to face it. It is not easily resolved to say I'm gonna love.
Yeah,
you can't solve it in that way.
I think it's not I'm not saying that love or any actually other emotion is not complex. However, I think there is a similar question was asked to Imam Badi'uzzaman Said Nursi. Isra, were you thinking of that? Would you like to take that?
I wanted to. Yeah, I can take that.
Like love being not voluntary. So how can I?
Yeah.
Okay. So you go ahead, inshallah.
Well, I actually initially wanted to paraphrase what Maha is trying to say. That she's trying to say that it looks like as if you say I love you for God, I don't really love you. I love God. Actually, I don't love you. So that's how it can be understood. But I think it's appears to be
two ways. There is this aspect of it, and there is the other aspect where if I love someone like it's not voluntary, now how can I make it now into love of God? So there are two aspects to it. But you are true that you're right that when people say I love you for the sake of God, it means like otherwise you wouldn't love me. So carry on, yes, inshallah.
Yeah. Actually, this reminds me of a theologian of another tradition, actually, a Christian theologian. He said, if somebody gets offended that you love him for God's sake, tell him I also love myself for God's sake. So I think there is some parallel there as well. But coming back to the Quran,
we need to unpack what this for God's sake is. That's why usually I don't like for God's sake, because to me it's too vague. We don't really know what we're saying.
Or in God's name. I mean, sometimes people think God's name means the same thing. I wouldn't otherwise bear you, like you're unbearable but in God's name I love you. Sometimes people can use it in that way, and it can be problematic in that way. But there is a much more kind of profound and healthy, wholesome way of loving here that's possible. And I think, yes, inshallah, let's unpack it more. Sister Jalila, do you want to say something?
Yes, assalamu alaikum. We should love what Allah loves, and we should hate what Allah hates. And this conversation just reminded me of a story of one of the Sahaba. I think it was Ali. I'm not sure, but it was in the midst of war, and they were in the middle of fighting a battle, and Ali had his sword out, radiallahu anhu, and he was about to strike this person with his sword, and the person spit in his face. And Ali lowered his sword and started to walk away. And the person who was just about to be killed, he said, why didn't you kill me? And Ali said to him, he said, I was about to kill you in the name of Allah. But when you spit in my face, it made me so angry that I was about to strike you out of my anger and not in the name of Allah. So now I can't kill you. And he walked off. So we should love for the sake of Allah as well as hate for the sake of Allah. I don't know if that makes it any clearer, but truly, in his anger, he could not even do what he was doing in war if it wasn't in the name of Allah.
Okay, but the question is, how do we love in the name of Allah? That I think that we got back full circle back to.
You said by recognizing his signs and his in creation. I think that's what you said.
Yeah, I think that's what Isra offered to clarify more. Isra? Inshallah.
Yeah, I'll start and you also please help. So I think there are a number of ways in which we can transform our love from its very basic superficial sense to a deeper level where we are loving in the name of God, through God. And so one way is to recognize that we get attached to many things. We love beautiful people. We love people who are kind to us. We love our parents. We love, beautiful houses, and we have, we love beauty and so on. So we have.
We say,
huh?
Al-insan abid al-ihsan.
Yes. So anything that's beautiful or that's kind of beneficial or generous toward us, we love it. Or anything also that has perfection, we also love it. Sometimes that thing has no benefit to you directly, like even if you're watching a movie and the hero is a very kind of upright, honest, brave person, and you love it. You love that perfection. Like it's not that hero is not helping you in any way, but still you see perfection manifested there in the virtues, and we love that as well. So we either as Ustad Nursi explains, like we either love things because they benefit us, or we see perfection in them, and we see generosity in them. So that's kind of our initial state. But then the key is to realize that thing in itself is not the source of that benefit or generosity or kindness. And then the moment we recognize that, as Sister Jalila also said, with the ayah, the moment we recognize that this thing that I'm in love with is a reflection of the eternal beauty, then it's not possible to love that thing as a separate way from, disconnected from.
As we do when we think it's the source. I think, however, here, what you said, Isra, is actually the turning point. And I, in my experience, found that turning point did not click for a long time, because when it is only knowledge, information, knowing, but not knowing with certainty, because knowing with certainty is a knowing of the heart, then the heart does not change its ways just because I know it. But when you know for sure, when the source is not, let's say if it's a person, it's not that person anymore. You almost like, it's like a mirror. Like, let's use a metaphor, just to make it, to simplify it. You're enamored with this beauty, let's say this beautiful person, and then you realize that you are looking at a mirror and you were attached to the mirror, and when the moment you are sure that it's only a reflection, immediately when that knowledge is grounded in the heart, when it becomes certainty, when it becomes a knowing of the heart, when it becomes yaqeen, then immediately you will start looking, where is the person who is reflected in the mirror? The attachment to the mirror, then in that knowing will cease, but the love is still there, the admiration is still there, but it is seeking the true source.
Assalamu alaikum. Dr. Amina, there was one more point I just wanted to touch on, because in the Quran there's one verse, I don't know exactly the number of it, which says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who puts love in everyone's heart, like it is in connection with the believers, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala points to them that you were enemies first, and because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put mahabba, muhabba in your heart. So that could be, he's the source of that love. He's the one who's creating that love inside our heart for someone else. So recognizing that fact, I think that's the point when it says in the hadith that you love someone for the sake of Allah, that you know that even that source of love that I'm feeling for somebody else, human being, is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I mean, all what you're sharing, sisters, are beautiful and it's all right. And I'm sure Maha knows all these things as well. What Maha is really saying, how do we make this our way of being? How does it become our way of being? Where is that critical point, that turning point where it transforms me? But because it's not only with the will. The will is, for instance, I intend to be grateful. I choose something. But like emotions is not something that I will. It's not something I can control myself. There is something before that I need to do so that those emotions will be transformed, that mawadda, that will be put in my heart for, and things like that. It's like with wisdom. It is given. I cannot go on a course for wisdom. But here in this surah, it is teaching us how to prepare ourselves so that we become recipient to that wisdom, so that we can receive it, so that our heart and inside are open to receive it. Otherwise, it's there, but I don't get it. So, yeah. So, Isra, I just wanted to emphasize that point because what you said was so key, important sentence. Sorry about that.
No, sure. Yeah. So there are a couple ways, strategies, if you will, that are mentioned in Ustad Nursi that I find very helpful. So one is to realize that these things that I'm in love with, this person or this quality or this house, whatever that is, we have many things that we love, we're attached to recognize that this is actually created by the source of all beauty. So immediately that love connects itself to the divine beauty, because you realize this is just a glimpse of that one. This isn't just an independent identity having its own beauty. That's one way. Another way is to do it through the way of negation. So when we are attached to something and then all of a sudden we realize that that thing doesn't have the perfection we thought it had, or that thing is not eternal. We thought, we will have this forever, but then it actually is not forever. And then all of a sudden there's this turning away happens, and this is initial step of that transformation. Like, I'm attached to something, then I realize that that thing is not perfect the way I imagined it to be perfect, or I realize that that thing is about to leave me, that it's not I can't depend on it. And then immediately you feel
heartbroken.
Yeah, heartbroken. And then it shifts, that love, that connection shifts from that object.
Makes you heartbreak is itself like a question, a seeking. Like, heartbreak means I don't love this, like Ibrahim alayhi salam. لا أحب المفلين. What's going on? Like, it is a seeking for a solution, for a healing, for the source of what is it that I am supposed to be, or what is it that I am seeking? What is it that really would satisfy my heart?
And I think another strategy suggested by Ustad Nursi is to see that beloved, that thing that we love, in the bigger context of, like, if it is just between me and the thing that I love, then everything is passing. We are all passing, and it's just it's not satisfying, and it's overwhelming even. But then when I realize that, wait a second, this thing and all the other things I love are interconnected and is all sustained by the same creator, then loving that creator enables me to love everything else more freely, because I don't have to worry about all the tragedies and imperfections and finitude that these things are going to go through, or are going through.
I won't feel torn. It's like you feel
torn. You mean feel torn?
Yes.
Yeah. And he actually has this piece that says, if you really are in love, then love the one who created all of it, because then you can genuinely enjoy what you love. Otherwise, you are in love with that thing, and everything else is dark. You're both kind of going towards finitude and death, and everything else, you can't help anything else. You hold on to each other, to your beloved, and you're both about to perish together. And that's very dark.
So, that not only that, but that love is always coexistent with fear, the fear of losing the beloved. And
I was actually very touched when I read a very famous author. He used to tell his wife at night, please don't die. So obviously this person is in love, but obviously this person is kind of sensitive enough to realize that we are all doomed, like we're going to death. And he unfortunately didn't seem to believe in God, at least not explicitly. So he talked a lot about death, that the death is coming, and what, everything is passing, and that he saw that everywhere. And finally, unfortunately, committed suicide, this man. And it's so interesting, if you look at it, you love your wife so much, but then you're in so much pain that you leave her and the entire world. Why? Because, and he made a note when he's committing suicide, his wife was with him because he was in depression, so she was with him for an extended period, and then she stepped out for something, and then in the meantime he committed suicide. And he wrote a note saying, people will say, how could you do this? How could you kill yourself? But it's not about like that I'm excited about killing myself. It's painful for me as well, but it's just that living was even more painful. So what kind of a love is this? And I'm just like taking this as a symbol. I'm not talking about the person per se, but as a symbol of our human situation, that when we can't love, when we can't, embrace our love for things in the bigger umbrella of God's love, then everything else is dark, and I have this kind of attachment to this thing. It's not really, it is love in some way. In a way, it's not love, because how can you love somebody so deeply at the same time you just leave? You just leave her like that. She was shocked. The wife was shocked and very disappointed, and you just leave her like that, because the existence with that without God is very painful. So even if we want to love just the thing itself, Nursi says, like almost like a strategy, like even if you just are focused on enjoying your love, your beloved, then realize that there is no way you could do that without recognizing the bigger umbrella of God's love. So these are some strategies to kind of really show to our selves that love is really possible through God's love. It's not like I don't otherwise love you, you're a nasty person, but in God's name I'm going to love you. No, it's not like that. It's more like I do see a glimpse of perfection in you. I see a glimpse of beauty in you. And the moment I recognize that it is from another source, immediately my heart moves to love you through that source, in the name of that source. Or it can be the negative way, when I see your imperfection along with your perfection, when I see your passingness, like everything is passing, we're all doomed to death, then I turn away from you. Not you personally, but you loving you in your name. I can only love you in God's name. That's only true love. Nejba, I think you had a question. Do you still have?
Sort of. It was kind of an observation and a question. I've often observed how people who are in a different station, let's say people who are closer to Allah, on a spiritual journey or path. When I observe their interactions with everybody else, like human beings, sometimes it seems like they are removed, or what's the word I'm looking for? Aloof,
detached, maybe.
Detached, very distant. They'll still do things, they'll say thank you, or they'll love, even with their own family, their own children or their own. But there is this kind of distancing or detachment, right? And I often wonder, to what to attribute that to. Is that a natural byproduct of sort of this, what you're describing, realization that Allah is the ultimate source of, it should be the true object of our affection and our loving. And so it's automatically, it's a byproduct. It's a natural byproduct. It happens. Once they progress more in that direction, then inevitably they kind of at least in terms of reflecting or manifesting their love, it just becomes less channeled or obvious or expressed, right?
Pedro, I have a question for you. How do you get to know if that person is close to Allah than somebody else?
I'm making a huge assumption there.
Because somebody else, who's so loving with his family.
Of course, I agree.
God,
And also, remember, this is like in quantum physics. We don't know how that person is when we are not there.
No, I understand.
And the Prophet ﷺ, he was very loving towards his grandchildren, his daughter Fatima, Khadija, after even her death. He keeps remembering.
Alayhi salam is saying Ya Bunay, which is in Arabic tasghir. It's actually my little son, but in Arabic it's it's an endearment, meaning my dear son.
Mm-hmm.
So you see how he is talking to his son as a father, saying Ya Bunay, oh my dear son. There is a compassion, an affection. It's a sign of affection.
Mm-hmm. So my question is it a natural byproduct, or is it just sort of very person specific? Like somebody can still have yaqeen to Allah and still be, still be very aware of this, and have sort of the hierarchy of love in the right place. But if they are just very emotional or affectionate in terms of their expression, then it doesn't, there might very well be another person who is also very expressive, still continually to their.
That's more character, probably. I don't know exactly, but definitely we are created differently with different characters.
I have yet to encounter somebody like that.
I'm just thinking of Abu Bakr radiallahu anh and Umar radiallahu anh. I mean, when you read about them, they are very different. And maybe we have also we are profiling. We profile what a peaceful, loving, worshiping God person should be. And in our profiling, in our prototype, we don't have Umar radiallahu anh doesn't fit, which means that we're just making things up. Which means that all different kinds of characters and personality all have their parts to God and their ways of expressing their love in the name of God, inshallah, and living their ubudiyah in different ways. Some people are quieter, some people are more expressive, but I don't think one is more superior than the other. It's how we use it. Just because someone is quieter doesn't mean that he is wiser than someone who speaks a lot.
Okay. So we don't have to hold back our expressions of emotion or love.
I think being true to yourself, being authentic, is the beginning of the journey.
Yamina, I also, in response to the sister I was asking, I think also it is the time we give ourselves with people. It depends on where did you grow, people that you've seen. I'm asking you, where did you grow? The sister asked the question, where did she grow?
New York.
Like, were you born in New York?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So again, they're different cultures have different lifestyles, and
in New York, people don't have time to hug each other.
And there might be really, and these lifestyles, to get to know someone and to connect on a level that you can feel the intensity that you're looking to feel in a relationship needs time and needs to be there in different situations and appreciate that person from different dimensions that you cannot do usually with a lifestyle that is very immediate. And when people who have this very immediate lifestyle, there's so many things that need to be done and accomplished in a day, priorities shift. It's all about accomplishments, like what needs to be done, and that sometimes does not leave time to appreciate and to connect. You might have these people you said I'd like to meet them. They might be all around you, but they themselves might not have the time. You might not have the time to see their colors, and they might not have the time to show you their colors, just because of the lifestyle that we all live in.
So we're saying it depends on your fitra, how your character, your personality. It depends on culture, on where you live, on conditions. And so it means, I don't think that's as you said, I need to keep myself quiet because that's what first it would be faking it, I'm going to keep quiet, so now I am connected to God. You are connected or you are not. And you connected in your being who you are. And it's good that we have people who are more expressive and people who are quieter. We have all this, so many different people. Imagine if we were all the same, life would be boring. We wouldn't be able to communicate because we would have the same blockages at the same in the same areas and things like that. So alhamdulillah that he created us, as it says in the ayah, very different in colors, in nations, in tongues, in everything. And our variety and is an ayah, is something to look at and be grateful for, inshallah.
Yeah. Dr. Yamina, I just wanted to say one point I just remembered, that the Prophet ﷺ, I think there's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ which says that if you like your brother, you should tell him that. You should not keep it in your heart, but communicate with him.
Yeah, I think what Najwa was pointing is that these people are not telling, not expressing, but they're very
more reserved.
Reserved and calm, and like they're not excited and
boisterous or gregarious or things like that. Yeah, I mean, it depends on the nature, obviously. Mm-hmm. But it will show if they are sincere, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think sincerity, which is being true to oneself, that authenticity is what matters. Because only then, when we connect to ourselves, we can connect to our Rabb. We cannot go connect to our Rabb just like that, out of nowhere. Alhamdulillah. So shall we carry on with next ayah?
Yeah.
Inshallah. So the next ayah was, yet if they strive to make you commit shirk with God, then you should not obey them. But even then, keep them company with kindness. So whatever we said for love, you can also say it for compassion, for other emotions. It doesn't have however we define the word love, actually we can always find something to love in everyone, but we don't have to. That's why compassion is a more encompassing word, because it's easier to have compassion even when you don't find something to actually love, because love seems to be an emotion that expects something in return. Whatever, even compassion needs to be in the name of God and kindness. So here it says, if they strive to make you commit shirk with God, do not obey them. So there is a limit to, this is telling us how to get on with them. It's teaching us how to keep the balance of being grateful to God and therefore to parents. It's saying be good to them, but do not obey them if they call you to something which is not in alignment with haqq, as you know it, of course, and tawheed. However, even then, do not make excuses. Keep them company in this world's life with kindness and follow the path of those who turn towards God. And I found this very, very intriguing, because I felt it's so easy to spoil the balance. It's easy to go a little overboard. If our parents, can you imagine, are not on the right path, it's easy to make an excuse to not be kind to them or not take care of them or whatever the conditions are. And that's why we're told to keep in mind that in the end, unto me you will all return. So, and it says in their point, I shall make you understand all that you were doing, meaning in this life. So it means be very careful. You cannot cheat God. We can only lie to ourselves by making up justifications. Of course, when we don't always lie to ourselves or make justifications consciously. Often we make up a whole stories, justification that we ourselves believe in, and because we believe in them, we think it is the truth. That's why this is actually, it's almost like a warning when I read that also. That's why istighfar again. I said, oh my God, we need to make istighfar all the time, because how would I know I'm not making up things? Well, you have to be as much as aware as you can and make istighfar. And there is something practically, if whatever I am making up is taking me away from being kind to them, then something is wrong. That is something pragmatic in life. This is a line, this is the limit. Being kind, whatever they do, even when they ask you for instance, they're striving to jahadaka, they are making an effort to take you away from what you think is right, then you don't obey them, you don't follow them, but وَصَاحِبْهُمَا فِي الدُّنْيَا مَعْرُوفًا, but be kind according to whatever the norms are in wherever you are, and also the norms of the fitrah. So be kind whatever it is. And if I feel anything but kindness towards them because of what they're doing, because sometimes parents can be not all parents are always compassionate. Maybe they were compassionate and merciful when you were a child, but when you're an adult, it's adult to adult, and they can be very difficult to deal with. And so it's easy to say, to give up and say, they are difficult to deal with. You try. I mean, you can't force them, but as far as we're concerned, it means that's what will be in my heart, because that's what I'm responsible for. And I will be the one who make that step towards them. If they refuse, then I make istighfar and pray to God. I cannot force them, but I cannot also, because it's so easy to say, okay, let them do whatever they want, or they are trying to take me from the haq. What kind of people are these? Subhanallah. So it's giving us this how to keep the balance, and it's saying, be careful, like the end is unto God. To me, you will all return, and I will let you, I will let you know, I will make you understand all that you were doing. So my hisab, how would you say, is not with my parents, but with God, with my Rabb, with the one who is closer to me than my jugular vein, the one who knows everything. And just when I was thinking that, subhanallah, ayah 16 says, يا بني إنها إن تكن مثقال حبة من خردل فتكن في صخرة أو في السماوات أو في الأرض يأتي بها الله إن الله لطيف خبير. It says, oh my dear son, truly, if there be but the weight of a mustard seed, and though it be even if it is hidden in a rock or in the skies or in the earth, God will bring it to light. For behold, God is Latifun Khabir, There were different translations because it's not easy to translate Latif. Pervading, all-pervading, perceptive, subtle, unfathomable in his wisdom, all-aware. Subhanallah. So when I thought, okay, we say God knows everything, so be careful, because be sincere. Let's say be true to yourself. Be authentic. Do not cheat the balance. Do not spoil the balance, that it says in another part of the Quran. Because God knows everything. And that God knows everything, it almost like seems too abstract, at least to me. Like we understand its meaning intellectually, but when I say God knows everything, I don't feel something always in my heart. Like my heart is not necessarily moved. Like, do we feel the weight of the consequences of meeting God in the end? This is more. Meeting God is something that I can almost like visualize, I can imagine, and therefore it's more, it touches the heart more. And to make sure we truly get it, Luqman alayhi salam says to his son, he gives him and he talks to him with imagery. He says, if there is something, even if it's the weight of a mustard seed, and a mustard seed is tiny. So imagine something as tiny as a mustard seed in a rock, in a boulder. How can one find it? Even if someone has the power and the means, let's say, to break the rock into tiny pieces, first we'll have to pulverize the boulder into pieces of the side of the seed so that the seed will come up. But even then, how can you find the seed? Who will be able to locate the seed and find it in that rumble? But it's saying not only in a rock, but even if it were in the earth, like a tiny seed in the earth, or the heavens. That's even like, we can't even imagine the heavens. So wide. God will easily bring it. Subhanallah. Ya'ti biha Allah. So he will easily bring it to light. So imagine the qualities involved in this image, in this metaphor. It's not only power, it's an all-encompassing knowing, very subtle. That's why Latif. And there is this awareness of everything everywhere, even a tiny something as tiny as a mustard seed in the whole heavens or in the whole earth. Subhanallah, he is Latifun Khabir, subtle, perceptive, unfathomable in his wisdom, all aware. And now you feel something. With this imagery, personally, it's not just like saying God knows everything. It's not up there in my mind. This is in the heart. You feel the awe. Even if you don't really understand what it is, you prostrate in awe. Subhanallah. It means there is no way I can hide anything from him. So what shall I do? If there is no way anything can be hidden from him, what shall we do? Be true to yourself and truly, sincerely be good to your parents in his name, the compassionate, the merciful, the affectionate, the loving, the generous. And because I can never make sure I'm truly sincere, always go back to him, seek his forgiveness, seek his help. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين. Because I cannot make sure. He knows everything. So there is this aspect of it. There is the other aspect of it, which is, you feel relieved. I don't know, but he does. He's aware of everything. He knows everything. It means he knows even my hidden desires and pains and everything. Things that maybe sometimes are so subtle, so latif, that I'm not even aware of them myself. He is aware of them. So I don't have to know everything. I don't know how to heal them, how to clear them, but he knows. So it's also very relieving. It makes you want to surrender into him. It's already an amana only, who belongs to him anyway. Inna lillahi, we belong to God. Wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and we are in a state of returning to him. But then it makes us grateful that we belong to him, grateful that he's aware of everything. And so I don't have to worry about those pains and how shall I heal them, how shall I take care of them. Just surrender fully, wholly to yourself, as Ibrahim a.s. we are told. He surrendered totally himself to God. And you feel like it's just like sometimes you feel like trapped, and it's almost like you're trapped, you don't have anywhere to go, and suddenly this gate opens and you throw yourself in the light and in the compassion, and alhamdulillah.
Sister Yanina?
Yes.
Could I just make a comment?
Yes.
It also kind of feels sort of like an encouragement, like before how you were saying that the ordering of the surahs is so significant, like the pearls on a necklace. Like what came to my mind when I just...
Can I just say something? I said it is more than pearls on a necklace.
Oh, okay.
Because pearls on a necklace, they are just, I can put pearls randomly, right?
Right.
Here they are like the word, like the letters of a word, or the words of a sentence.
Okay. I misunderstood the metaphor, but the point still stands.
Go ahead.
Okay. So like right before, how it was talking about, if they try to take you off the right course and get you to commit shirk, then don't obey them, but still, accompany them with kindness and do things. So it's almost like saying, sometimes there are really, really difficult situations where you're with, it could be very difficult, let's put it that way, especially when parents age. And so it's almost like saying, sometimes we are inclined, or shaitan is inclined to get us to think like, oh, it's so insignificant, it's not going to make such a difference, because the nafs is always wanting to make big differences. When it acts, when it does things, it wants to make grand gestures, when it sort of downplays little things as if they don't matter, or they don't, so why bother, but right immediately following that, it's saying like everything counts, like every little thing counts. So don't belittle sort of the little things, the droplets, if you will. It doesn't have to pour, it can just drizzle. And I just what?
Don't negotiate. There are things that can't be negotiated.
Right. Everything has its weight, and it has its atomic value or whatever.
We can negotiate our pride and things like that, but not what is haqq and what is not.
And I just find the whole thing really interesting, that it's a parent giving this advice about parents, or how to be with parents, like even to the point of like if they tell you to commit shirk, then don't obey them. Like it's just interesting that it's a parent like child relationship that is sort of the framework for this message, whereas it could have very easily been like Prophet Muhammad or something telling people, this is the way you should be with your parents, your relationship with your parents, or in, you know, as a case in point, but I mean, obviously talking more broadly about shirk in general, but specifically, you know, with respect to the parents. So I don't know what your thoughts about that are like, but I just find it really interesting that it almost makes it more genuine, like, or more, it lends sort of like a level of credibility or more, you know, because it's like a parent is able to say this about themselves. It's almost like self-critical, you know, in that sense, as opposed to, I don't know, some other person saying the same message.
So a parent with hikmah. This is the part of the hikmah that he's been taught. We're told in ayah 12. And subhanAllah, the whole surah so far is telling us how to live, you know, how to live so that we receive hikmah. And so right after we understand from, well, it's more than understanding. After ayah 16, when we feel that Allah is Latif al-Khabir, you feel it, but it's easy to forget. Tomorrow I will totally forget it. So next, subhanallah, very compassionately, and you see the hikmah of Rabbul Alameen here, or Rabb, he shows us how to maintain this awareness and knowing that God is truly Latif al-Khabir. How do we do that? The next ayah says, oh my dear son, again, establish the prayer. So, aqim as-salah. So the establishing the prayer, I will refer back to our monthly teleconference on Salah. But just remember here that when we establish the prayer, not just pray, we said there that it becomes the pillar of our life, Imad ad-Din. And so all other activities start to revolve around the Salah. And so this way of being muqim as-Salah cultivates in us a constant awareness of our Rabb, of our connection to our Rabb. And our connection to our Rabb is through who we are, through our needs. And we start living our life in His names, meaning when I help, He is the helper. I am aware that He is helper. When someone helps me, I am aware that God is helping me through that person, and that person becomes a beautiful mirror of that name, for instance. So we start living our life as conscious mirrors, because I can't find a better word, reflecting His beautiful attributes, starting in our life, starting with our parents and everyone around us, and everything else. And that's why we told the next, and enjoin the doing of what is right and forbid the doing of what is wrong. وانهى عن المنكر وأمر بالمعروف وانهى عن المنكر. And next is patience. واصبر على ما أصابك. And next is patience, which is only possible because it says إن ذلك من عزم الأمور, and that's something. It's something like not easy. It's something to set one's heart upon. You have to. It takes a certain, let's say, decision, choice, way of being, choosing how to be able to do that, because we talked before a little bit about patience. That patience is only possible when we're aware that everything stems from Him, everything is coming from Him, everything, all things, all events, especially the problem. When we like what's going on, it's okay, it's easy to be grateful. But when we don't like it, then we need to know, to remember, to have that yaqeen. Remember the muhsinin at the beginning, they have the yaqeen that everything is an ayah, that all things are ayat. They bear meanings, they bear purposes, they bear hikmah, wisdom, that look to God, that look to His beautiful names, that look to akhirah and to eternal life. And so it's not only about what I think is my small little word, which is my own illusion, self-delusion of what life is about, because there's so many things that I don't know. I don't even know what will happen in a few minutes. How can I say, get an image of what is good, what is bad, and like things and dislike, and make that as the criteria, the point of reference? Because yes, our dislikes are again ayat, but they are ayat within a bigger picture of ayats. It's not the only thing. It's not the criteria, the point of reference for everything in my life. Even my whole life is only like a small, short part of our eternal life. And that means that we start living with ihsan. Remember, the surah starts with the muhsinin. And remember who hikmah is given to whom? It's given to the muhsins, as we learned in Surah Yusuf. وَلَمَّا بَلَغَ أَشُدَّهُ وَآتَيْنَاهُ حُكْمًا وَعِلْمًا وَكَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْمُحْسِنِينَ. When he reached his prime, meaning Yusuf alayhi salam, we gave him, God saying, we gave him wisdom and knowledge. And this is how we reward the muhsinin, subhanallah. So we are being prepared here to receive the wisdom. We're prepared to, we taught how to live with that ihsan, so that we will also receive wisdom. And here, Luqman alayhi salam is teaching wisdom to his son. How? He's teaching him how to be in order to receive the wisdom, because wisdom is given. And that's why the next two ayats also, they do that. They give that tarbiyah. It says, do not turn your cheek away from people in pride, and do not walk haughtily on earth. For behold, God does not love anyone who out of self-conceit acts in a boastful manner. Hence, therefore, be modest in your bearing, and lower your voice. For behold, the ugliest of all voices is the loud voices of asses, donkeys. Subhanallah. Remember, hikmah starts with gratitude. And so here it's teaching us, preparing us to be in that state of gratitude, because it's not easy to be grateful to God alone and to be grateful for the things happening in our life. Like, gratitude is not something that I force onto myself. If I don't like something, I don't like it. So it's not like I'm going to make myself grateful. No, it is like I will learn to see things, perceive things, so that I'll find the beauty, I'll find the meaning and wisdom and purposes that will make gratitude flow into my heart, because I cannot do that if I don't like them. If I don't know what they mean, if I think they are purposeless and things like that. So where am I going to bring gratitude from? It's not something to be faked or forced. So it's saying, so arrogance and boasting negate gratitude. Saying, do not be arrogant. Do not look at people in an arrogant way, in a and the way you walk as well. It's saying, do not boast, be modest, we're told, and walk with modesty, lower your voice. SubhanAllah, aren't these all practical ways, like how we live in our body, just like the salah has an outer and an inner. Like when we prostrate, it's difficult if someone has no intention to surrender, to prostrate. when we have the intention to prostrate, to surrender, and we prostrate, that prostration will be more meaningful, and it's going to sustain and cultivate that feeling of humility before God, that feeling of gratitude. And so is the way we talk, the way we walk, the way we look at people. There is something inside that's making me look in a certain way. So I need to change how I look at people so that those feelings will transform. But at the same time, so it's giving me a hint. If you're looking at in a haughty way, if you're looking in a certain way at people, go look back in your heart. There is something to be cleared, to be transformed. A belief about who people are, what they are, who I am, that is making me look at them in a particular way. At the same time, once I understand that, it has to start from inside though. Once I understand that, once I confirm that, once those feelings are transformed, in order to let's say, secure that state of being, to maintain it, to cultivate it, to not relapse into my older ways, older habits, older beliefs, I also can check the way I look at people, the way I walk, the way I speak, and that they will be outer signs and reminders to that state of being that I became acquainted with, and I want to stay in that maqam, in that station. I don't want to relapse back in those old beliefs, old habits of being. I don't know if is clear, but I'm saying that it works both ways, although it always starts from inside. Always inside out. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين آمين. الحمد لك والشكر لك يا أرحم الراحمين. استغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانك آمين. Thank you. Let's stop here, inshallah. It's been quite long.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And inshallah we'll continue next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum everyone.